This is the Women in Advertising panel. It's actually the second one that we've done. There was one like 2 years ago at Henry's Minds Wide Open event that happens every year, and so hopefully it's one of many. My name's Mary Jane O'Connor. I'm a creative advertising junior undergrad.
I think I've read, as a female creative, that going into the creative department at entry-level jobs, like women and men are about evenly matched. There's a conference that came about a few years ago called the 3% Conference. 3% refers to the amount of women that are in creative leadership roles, a creative director role or above. So 3%, that's 97% men at that level, which sucks. There's more conversation around women in advertising than ever before, and more conversation about the representation of women and people of color in advertising than ever before.
The larger global trend is, and all of you are experiencing it, that we are all getting more interconnected. We are facing clients or consumers who are digitally very smart. So most of the time they have more information than us who are trying to provide information. And there is global diversity that all of us need to engage with. So given this reality of interconnected world, think about for a minute, what will be the skills you would look for if you are to hire someone? What kind of knowledge, what kind of skills, what kind of life experiences? So we are in the era of multiple intelligence, where people with creativity, creative abilities, emotional intelligence, and ability to solve problems by connecting with others would do very well. And I would propose that women are naturally, given their life path and the kinds of multitasking we all do in multiple roles, are better positioned to achieve the goals of that profession and certain jobs. So I think in a way there is a better ecosystem now for women, where professions will be responsive in terms of recognizing certain skills and innate abilities that women bring. So that's one reason. And I think the second reason is women are fighting for what they believe in increasingly, and they do have the environment where they can now access things that probably earlier generations couldn't, despite all the difficulties that women face. But I think the issue is when we just look at entry level and say women are rising, what we need to actually track is, are they also climbing up in those institutions in leadership roles? And still we have not made it to that level. So it's great that at the startup level or at the entry level, there are more women. In certain disciplines, there are more women. But we also should look at what do they face as they progress in their career paths. So I think it's important to look at the holistic picture.
I cannot tell you how important it is to focus on having the best possible work that you can have coming out of school. There is a point at which people's priorities shift for various reasons, many of which have to do with family and the dynamics of family and having kids, and a lot of that just based on society, and that's a much bigger panel probably, gets a lot of that burden gets put on the moms and less so on the dads.
Men and women's different needs, obligations, guilt the same way. So I think in advertising, and in automotive advertising in particular, which is like a boys' club on top of a boys' club, the ideal worker, and a lot of my bosses and a lot of the leadership in our industry are men who have a wife at home, and he's working all night and she's taking care of the kids, she's making sure his laundry is done, she's supporting that role. What do you do as a woman raised in a society that tells you those are sort of, conscious or subconsciously, those are sort of your realm? And how do you break out of that line of thinking in order to better support yourself, if that's where you want to go, is up the chain?
I'm in a very unique position. And I feel like when people ask me, like, how did you get to where you are? It's partially because in my home life, I am the dad.
The system.
Yeah, but that literally, I realize that is not going to happen for everybody.
But I think everyone should think about how they could break the system to fit their own needs.
You can build your own personal brand like never before. You could be a one-person shop, you could be a 2 or a 5 or a 10-person shop and do very well for yourself. And it's the idea of what is my personal brand? What are the choices that I'm willing to make? Where are the sacrifices that I'm willing the sacrifices that I'm willing to make? What are the things that I am not going to compromise on at all under any circumstances? And then you move forward and you build your career and you build your empire from this place of individuality, and you surround yourself with people who do great work and who encourage you and push you and move you towards better work. And then you catalog all of it. You keep a record, and you keep that record when you need to go into your boss to say, this is why, and have it quantifiable. This is why I deserve more, or I should make that move. Or when you need to, when you do hit a brick wall and you need to go elsewhere, you have this personal brand that you've built, and you've quantified it with performance and with things that are attributable to that
I
performance.
personally felt like every choice I made to progress, and I know I'm not in a creative field, but every choice I made to progress, it was a vote for the kind of organization I wanted to be part of and what they valued and what they appreciated about what I brought to the table. I do have a child, and I still work just as hard as my male counterparts, maybe even harder, because I have to juggle both. I have to be great one place and switch gears and be great another place, and I'm not always either. But I think I also made choices to move to places that I felt like supported that choice and allowed me to succeed without having to make compromises that I didn't
How
want.
are we portraying women through advertising, and what women are facing around the world, and what is our moral responsibility? And I think that question has to be asked, because the client and consumers are ahead of us, and they're going to ask us that question as advertising industry and creative industry, that are you paying attention to this? And actually advertising has tremendous power, as all of us know. So use that power of connecting with the world through media. We say the planet and the profit and people. And I think that's what we should be talking about, and what women can do to enhance that, while also questioning the way advertising industry portrays women, because honestly, it's shocking where we are. I don't think we have progressed the way women are portrayed in so many ads for boys.
Even if I'm doing the smallest project that doesn't, there's not a lot of budget behind it, but a lot of it's choosing images, and I make sure whenever I can, I'm choosing an image of someone who looks real, and it isn't just a pretty young white woman, like even if it's a small banner ad or a social media post, it's like people recognize that, and I know Ford has received a lot of positive feedback for showing, all kinds of faces and people.
I'm in a bit of a smaller firm, so we have the opportunity to work in very tight groups. We have an opportunity to, if not wear a whole lot of hats, certainly have input into divisions that are really outside of your traditional scope of work. So the ability to go in and have a voice and offer a different perspective is oftentimes very empowering. But because you've got a very creative environment, you've got much more of a relaxed environment, you can also go in there with some strategies too, with your coworkers and the people that need help. It's been more than one time that I've been in a room where decisions were being made. And I often feel like we have a great voice when we're just batting around ideas, but where you tend to have to really lean in a little bit more and come forward with a little bit more power and a little bit more passion is when those decisions are being made. And you got to go in with a wingman, just like any Friday or Saturday night. And I've said more than once, that was a good idea when Mary Jo had it 10 minutes ago, when somebody has circled back to your idea or maybe restated the point. So stand up for yourselves and stand up for your fellow women in the room, especially in those critical times where a decision is being made, because if it's your idea, damn it, take credit for it. And if you see it being given away or parsed away to different people in the room, then get on them and stick up for your sisters
If you're doing a project and you're in a group, you want to be with your friend because you have so much in common. But who can you take into your team that will add a different perspective, that will add experiences that you don't have, that will add strength to your work that another team may not have because they were all just wanting to be around people just like them? That can only make your work better.
I think one of the things that has made me really successful is that I am a little hardwired as a female, as at one point a young girl, to be a little bit empathetic to who our end customers are, who the people we're creating products and services for. I feel like I I think sometimes females do a really good job of getting in the mind of the consumer. And I also feel like, you know, we're taught in a lot of ways to build consensus. And so sometimes I can really kind of rally people around my idea in a way that sometimes some of my male counterparts struggle.
I think that girl culture, on the other hand, is a much unexplored territory. So you do have insights as women that men cannot fake. And you all know this because you've seen advertising where you're like, no, that's not what it's like. That's not what it's like to be a woman at all, you know. So you're bringing something to the table that's valid and real. You're bringing your perspective to the table. And because there is this desire for greater representation of other cultures, you have something that other people don't have.
I think in creative industries with more women, there is a great potential to even redefine what institutional culture should look like, what you were talking about earlier. That what is the culture and how do you make that culture more inclusive so that everyone feels more comfortable? You have to recognize the value of different ideas and different cultures. And then you bring that as leaders when you go to industry. And then you create a better environment as a woman, even for men, because you are making the work environment more exciting and more creative and more dynamic. So I think it's about bringing feminine approaches to the way we manage organizations and not make it very authoritarian and top-down.
There is not a single woman my own age who I work with who hasn't had some kind of talk or been called overly assertive or told they had an attitude problem. This is the downside to being raised with those traits and learning those things. Don't take it personally if you hear that, women, and also men, don't say stuff like that. Like, if you would call a guy in the same situation, just like, wow, leadership, you know, he's being a real leader, he's being a real boss, he's being so assertive, then don't tell a woman that she's being too bossy, too aggressive. You probably will hear that. Brace yourself. It doesn't mean anything at all. Ask for more, not less. I think women tend to want to make themselves a little bit smaller, to say, I just really want this job. I don't need to negotiate for salary. You know, I'm just happy to be here. I'll take the crappy work and I'll just prove to you how good I am. That's valid. That's valid to prove how good you are, but ask for more. Be supported, whatever your life looks like. Ask to be put on the really cool assignments. Ask for more money. Cindy Gallup says, as women, we have a duty to ask for as much money as we can possibly get. Because guess what? In this world, people take seriously people who earn a lot of money. I mean, it feels a little bit radical, but you're gonna have to get good at negotiating. And that will help you weather all of that bad stuff that happens, because they'll say, this woman's really great at what she does. She makes a lot of money, she works on really great projects, like she kills it. And that will help you get through into that, you know, higher positions, the leadership positions. Don't make yourself small. Don't say, well, I can do this and I'll handle everything at home. Right. Like, ask for that help, ask for more responsibility, ask for more flexibility at work. Just ask and believe that you're worth all of that, and don't internalize it and stuff it down and say that I'll just figure out a way to deal with it.
Take that as a lesson, and you do not have to feel completely qualified for something or completely ready. If you have the opportunity, take it and fail if you fail, but probably you're not going to fail, and it's just a fear of the failure that's keeping you from doing it.
You will be alone as a woman many, many times because you are trying to change things. And you are trying to question things. And I think many mothers and women and daughters and professionals have experienced this. So be comfortable and have the courage to be alone and lonely at times, because world will not see your point of view. And that's precisely the point, that you are changing that world where you felt uncomfortable. So world is not going to understand what is it that you are trying to change. And so do not give up. Sometimes you'll have people who will support you, sometimes people won't. But be courageous to be alone and stand on your own, as somebody said earlier.
To be successful, you don't have to give up kindness. And I kind of just, the word nice and kind are interchanged a lot, and I actually think they're very, very different. I'm very kind, which is considerate and respectful, but I'm not always nice, which is I'm going to say what you want to hear, and I'm going to do what you think I should do. And I think the more both young men and young women who come into all sorts of industries, especially ours, the more you can be kind and still command authority, I feel like we're going to create a better environment overall. Because I don't think you should compromise standing up for what you believe in. I think you should be fair and you should be firm.
At certain points along the way, make sure that you're looking around and you're investing in yourself, and you're investing and you're going outside to get knowledge and understanding and coaching and training for the position that you want to have.
Find the person in the organization that I wanted to be like, that I respected the most, that I loved the way they carried themselves, I loved how they pushed for ideas, and I would find time with them. I would try to get that mentor.
Disrupt things. The moment you are comfortable, start asking, why do I feel comfortable here? And why I'm told to be comfortable. So essentially, disrupt and take risks.
And advertising affords me a way to make things creatively that still influences society in terms of how we cast and what the messages are out there. And there's a huge amount of power in the media. And advertising is way at the top of that list in terms of ways to affect what people think. So I feel like I have an agenda about the world being a better place, and advertising is a great way to put it out there.
There's an inherent power that comes with being behind the representation of what you see in culture. Advertising, it may not be art itself, but I heard the best definition of advertising, which is it may not be art, but we solve our clients' problems with art. I want to have a hand in deciding what culture gets to look like next.
Maybe that's the reason why advertising attracts so many women, is because there's the ability to problem solve in a very kind of thoughtful and pragmatic kind of way. So a lot of times you see the men in the room want to take a hammer to the problem, and the women in the room really want to explore what the options are, what the opportunities are, number of different outcomes, and then move forward on one that seems the most plausible. I think that the internet and the great and you know, the great connectivity that everybody has, you can't hide behind bullshit anymore.
Yeah.
It's ferreted out
You'll find out.
in a second, and that has helped separate kitty litter from breast cancer awareness. And I hope and I think that it's a trend that's going to continue.
As a creative, like, it's kind of your job to fail. Like, as a creative, your job isn't to come in and sell work.
Perfection.
Your job is to come in every day, get knocked down, go back, come up with something new, which I personally find a very liberating point of view. Like, my job is to show up and weather the chaos that day, and hopefully make something great, and it always comes out. But I think that there's a freedom in that kind of
I
failure.
would say be curious. If you're going to succeed, I think you need curiosity in this business.
Build your brand and curate your brand. I have a folder both on my computer and on my desk that's simply titled "I Should Be Paid More," and everything that I do that I'm proud of goes into that folder. So when it's time to show somebody my value and my worth, it's all right there.
Yeah, in addition to knowing what you want, I would say speak up. I was someone, when I first started my career, who just expected people to, you know, notice what I was doing silently and, like, pick up on the fact that I wanted to do more creative work, that I'd put in the extra hours. And finally, I spoke up, and it was, like, super easy. I was like, wow, I should have done that, 6 months ago.
I'm going to stick with break the system, break the rules, break the system. I mean, that's what advertising is.
Keep learning. World is changing around you so rapidly. Trust me, no one knows the truth. Keep learning, and it's okay. Even if it's difficult, it's fun.